Over the past few weeks, social media has been ablaze about the fires ravaging Australia. It is the most devastating wildfire the continent has experienced in decades, destroying millions of acres worth of national parks and bushland. As of this writing, roughly 3,000 homes have been destroyed, 29 people have lost their lives, and over 1 billion animals have fallen victim to the flames. It's just another reminder of how natural disasters have the potential to ravage lands and upend people's way of life. And whenever there are natural disasters, there are bound to be people brave enough to capture the impact on camera. This is the third part of our series detailing natural disasters caught on camera. You can watch the first two parts in the links down below. In this episode of Underworld, we're going to be looking at 5 more natural disasters that were caught on camera. Before we get started, if you enjoy this video, then make sure to subscribe to never miss an upload, and also leave a like down below. Something you may not know is Australia frequently experiences wildfires. It is a naturally occurring event, but in October of 2019, a fire broke out more severe than the country has ever seen before. The origins of this fire can be dated back to 2017, when the continent experienced a prolonged drought. In September of 2018, the eastern portion of the continent suffered its driest September ever, making for the perfect conditions for a massive fire to break out. In October of 2019, Australia went through its annual bushfire season. However, the prolonged drought caused the embers to spread more quickly than ever before. Several people lost their lives in New South Wales and Queensland. On November 11, 2019, a state of emergency was declared in both those territories. Throughout the next month, the fires continued to spread. Australian firefighters did everything they could to extinguish the flames, but the flames carried on. You can see for yourself firsthand the scale of these flames in this video. As the cameraman runs away from the flames, you get a real sense of the size of this fire. It makes perfect sense why it was too intense for firefighters to get a firm grasp on. The embers continue to follow the cameraman, almost looking as if you've been transported to hell. The 2019-2020 Australian bushfire will likely prove to be one of the most significant natural disasters in recent memory. NASA even found that the smoke emitted from the fires traveled around the globe and back to Australia, impacting atmospheric conditions on a worldwide scale. As of this writing, fires are still raging across Australia. Please consider donating to local fire departments or other charities collecting funds to help those impacted by the fires. Every cent helps. This brings us to the next item on this list. Let's take a step back in time to a more distant natural disaster. Florida frequently gets tornadoes. However, they tend to dissipate shortly after forming, rarely ever coming to the same strength you find elsewhere in the country. However, in 1997, Miami experienced a tornado of epic proportions, seen in all of its terror in the following clip. The tornado begins in the water, but it doesn't take long to make its way more inward towards the city. If you look carefully, you can even see the quick flashes of the tornado breaking power lines. The tornado itself developed around 2 p.m. on May 12, 1997. It initially made contact with the Silver Bluff Estates area and quickly swept through downtown. It was able to bypass Miami's skyscraper, causing minimal damage to properties. In total, it only lasted for 15 minutes, but it's still remembered by locals for the haunting images that came out of it. But even this isn't as crazy as what we have next. On February 15, 2013, a meteor made contact in western Siberia. From video footage, you can see the superbolide fly across the Russian sky, exploding in the atmosphere before crashing onto land. One of the most haunting portions of the video is when you see what traffic was like nearby the meteor. The area quickly shines bright, to the point where you can't really see anything ahead of you. The brightness gives way to a haunting red glow coming over the area before going back to normal. Not only was the light bright enough to blind you if you were in the wrong spot, but some people near where the meteor flew overhead reported they felt an intense heat momentarily. Due to the shallow angle of its entry into the atmosphere and its high velocity, the object exploded overhead. The explosion resulted in an intensely hot cloud of gas and dust. Several small fragmentary meteorites then crashed into Earth. Most of the object's energy was absorbed by the atmosphere. However, had its total kinetic energy been directed entirely at Earth, it would have been a blast yield of between 400 and 500 kilotons of TNT, which is between 26 and 33 times the amount of energy detonated at Hiroshima. The scary part about all of this was that the meteor was completely undetected prior to it entering the atmosphere. This is due to the fact that its radiant energy was so close to the sun it merely passed by. While the damage could have been a lot worse, many Russians still needed to be treated for injuries. Approximately 1,500 people sustained injuries and had to seek medical treatment. These injuries were a result of the shockwave of the meteorites or from glass breaking nearby. Roughly 7,200 buildings across 6 cities in the area suffered damage from the shockwave. This was the largest known natural object to enter Earth's atmosphere since 1908, when the Tunguska event occurred, also in Siberia. In December of 2015, a massive landslide swept over the southern Chinese city of Shenzhen. Shortly after the landslide swept over the region, 33 buildings were immediately buried and 91 people went missing. An area of over 650,000 square feet was covered by over 20 feet of mud. From video footage, you can only watch helplessly as the landslide rapidly makes its approach to Shenzhen. Buildings immediately fall to the ground while people run for cover. Later in the video, you find aerial footage of the aftermath. Buildings have been entirely wiped out. Streets are covered in mud, while smoke rises from the destruction. You can even see exactly where the landslide came to a halt. Fortunately, there were portions of the region spared from annihilation. To rescue as many people as possible, rescue crews had to come in to dig through the mud to see what and who they could find. Later, Deputy Secretary General of the Shenzhen government, Li Yikang, said that over 900 people had to be evacuated from the area, while over 1,500 people had to be brought in for rescue efforts. The loss of life eventually reached 73 individuals, with 4 people remaining missing. Later, the government found the landslide occurred as a result of an improperly managed waste dump, experiencing neglect for the previous 2 years. In 2017, 45 people, including government officials, were tried in local courts for their negligence, resulting in hefty fines and prison sentences. Back to the present, the Taal volcano in the Philippines showed signs of activity on January 13, 2020. Massive amounts of ash and smoke began spewing out of the volcano, forcing thousands of people nearby to evacuate. The ash even reached the capital of Manila, more than 40 miles north of the volcano, with lava beginning to flow later that day. You can see for yourself just how massive the ash plume was in this footage. However, we'd like to focus on something else that emanated from this eruption. We have covered plenty of volcanic eruptions in the past, but there's always one feature we've overlooked. Namely, this time, we want to focus on how massive volcanoes have the power to create lightning storms from within the smoke. Don't believe us? Just see for yourself. It looks like the mighty Thor himself is emerging out of the volcano. It's quite the sight to be seen, especially when you consider the fact that the smoke plume was visible from space. To make matters even worse, the volcano triggered 144 earthquakes throughout the region, posing multiple threats to people both on land and in the air. Unfortunately, these kinds of events are nothing new for the Philippines. The country is located in the Ring of Fire, which is a 25,000-mile chain spreading throughout the Pacific Ocean. Tremors and volcanic eruptions occur all the time, so people in the region are used to needing to evacuate at a moment's notice. Still, we don't think we could ever get over the terror of experiencing lightning, volcanic ash, and an earthquake simultaneously. It is insane to look at all of the natural disasters you could potentially experience in your lifetime. One thing is for sure, with insane disasters seemingly happening all the time, you can expect these kinds of videos for a while. Let us know in the comments which clip you found the most interesting. With that, thanks for watching and tune in next time.